Hello and welcome to Let's Be Real About It, where we are real about real life issues. I'm your host, Mildred T. So I must warn you that this is a no holds barred zone. Therefore, some of the contents of the show may be offensive to some, but that is not the intent of the show. And I want you to order my book, please. Truth, My Closet Secrets Reveal. Some of the contents tonight that we have discussed or will be discussing, you can find it in my book on resentment, bitterness, ill will, family life. It's all in my book because my guest tonight is my brother. So we're talking about some of the things that's in the book that we went through as children. And I want you to order the brochure as well, A Cry from the Wound, and hear what this baby go through inside the womb and hear what it's like for this child. So, and order this for anybody who's childbearing age. Please order this. Anybody who may be thinking about right now having an abortion, order this brochure. I'm telling you, it will change and transform your life. Um, Also, I want to give special thanks to our sponsors tonight, J&K Style Grill in Virginia Beach. As you know, I'm wearing the shirt. And we have an anonymous sponsor as well. And if the show has been a blessing to you in any shape or form, please, and you would like to be a sponsor on the show, you can contact me through social media or you can send me an email to iheartministries@gmail.com. Well, I'm excited about my guest coming back tonight for part two. And my special guest, as I said earlier, is my brother David. And David, we welcome you to the show.
Amen. Good to be back. Glad to be back to share. Amen. For those that didn't don't know me, I'm David Oglesby, her brother. Uh, I'm married to Diane Cobb Oglesby, and I have three children, two sons and a daughter, grandchildren, and I'm seeing my great grandchildren. I thank God for my third generation. I have about seven great grands. Thank God. Glory. Amen.
Yes. So thank you. Come back, and you came back for part two. So we're gonna see what all we're gonna do here in part two. So just to recap, from the previous show from last week, we was talking about bitterness. So one of the things that I was looking on the internet and I saw this on Google and I said, oh, this just right on time. It says
Hmm.
that one expert has proposed that bitterness be recognized as a mental illness and characterized as post traumatic embitterment disorder, other known as PTED. So he said that bitterness needs to be recognized as a mental illness and
Sure.
categorized as a post traumatic embitterment disorder. So saying that it needs to be I can't get it out of my mouth, categorized as a disorder. So that just lets you know right there how deep and how bad that bitterness is. And it also says that it will cause physical diseases in the body. So to
Sure.
harbor that, the bitterness, one thing I like what Paul said, let bitterness and wrath and anger and all this and evil speaking be put away from you with all malice. Paul said you got to get rid of this. So that lets you know right there how bad the bitterness is. So David, getting back into your story, you mentioned that you didn't know yourself and you never challenged yourself and you felt underprivileged. Talk about that.
Well, in a lot of ways, I never.
Get in the
I,
camera.
I, okay. All
Okay.
right. All right. I'm trying to get right. A lot of ways, I never had the opportunity to even find myself. You know, find myself. Because what am I saying? What am I saying? It's so deep. It's hard to start in the middle because it have to run back to childhood. Uh, because my brother and I had to start work. He was about 11, 10, 11. I was about 8 or 9. And maybe 10 when our father went to prison. You remember? And
Mhm.
so, we at a young age, even I say a boy that where I should have been playing and having fun, I had to, me and my brother had to get the lawnmower, go from neighbor to neighbor house to see if we could cut grass or
Um, so you say that you felt underprivileged because you all had to go out and cut
so
grass.
yeah, we had to go out and cut grass, haul, we help the farmers haul hay, ask people, do we have anything that we could do to earn a few dollars because we had to bring it home and give it to our mama to help everybody, help us feed everybody, pay rent, pay light bill. And so I grew up taking on manhood chores at an early age. And and it stayed in me. Start working early and never had the opportunity to just be a child, to be who I want to be. Never pursued my dreams. I'm always trying to fulfill somebody else's dream. You know what I'm saying? And so I'm kind of lost there. It's kind of hard to say, man, you only live 63 years and don't know who you are. No, in a way, I'm still finding myself. Uh,
And that's just real life talk.
huh?
I say
Yeah,
that's
I'm
just
still
real
finding.
talk. That's real talk.
Yeah, yeah, I'm
So
still finding myself. Yeah, I'm sorry about the phone thing. You know. Okay.
yeah, so when Emma saw your life in turmoil, our sister, uh, she wanted you to go down to the water with her. So talk about what happened when you and her went down to the water.
Emma know that I had a drug problem, and but she would always make sure I ate. She would always make sure I was clean. She would make me take a bath. She'd make me come in and take a shower. She would wash me some clothes. And she would keep me a pair of changing clothes at her house. Emma was my second mom. She was my secret mom. She would always call me, always tell. She never have I met her since we've been grown, and she didn't tell me that she loved me. Even in my mess, she would hug me. She said, "I love you." She said, "We ain't got but one another, babe." She said, "Who?" She said, "What are you doing to yourself? We just got one another." She said, "You ain't going out like that. We ain't gonna let you." She said, "I love you too much." She said, "Every time you turn around, I'm gonna be on you." And so that's the way it was. I never forget that Saturday evening. She came and found me at a drug house, and she got out the car she was in. She was
So we're talking about resentment. Um, and my brother just went out here. So he and Emma went down to the water. She found him and she took him down to the water. She saw the condition that he was in, saw the mess that he was in, and she got him to go down to the water. But he could tell his story better than I can tell it. So while it was down there, uh, she began to pray with him, and she began to talk with him about all that he was going through, and so as they was talking, and she told him to step his foot into the water, and when he stepped his foot into the water, where the water was going, I can't exactly remember where the water was supposed to be going down screen, it ended up going backwards. And they just begin to experience something between the two of them. um, and they just saw the glory of God there in the water. So so that's just a awesome experience, an awesome experience. And talking about bitterness, as we're sitting here talking about bitterness, because I talk about it in my book. uh things that he had touched on. how our home life was. But as he talked about, that bitterness took him to a whole nother place. Bitterness took him to a place to where he was involved with different types of women, and all this stuff was past stuff. Got him in a drug place, and where he was just strung out on drugs and stuff, and the bitterness and the resentment against our dad. And then, and even coming from that, he was obese. And that's something I want to talk about too. He was obese at one time. I guess one time he was like 400, 450, weighed 400, 450 pounds. And he decided that he wanted to have gastric bypass surgery. And so he went in the hospital, military hospital. He had the bypass surgery. But then where he had got the surgery at began to leak. And it set up an infection in his body, and they had to take him back to surgery. And when they took him back to surgery, he literally died on the table. And they was able to resuscitate him. So, he shouldn't even be alive, and he shouldn't even be on the show and even talking on the show, because, they had considered him at one time a dead man. But, it just wasn't his time to go. How many of y'all know that when it ain't your time to go, it ain't nothing that death can do to take you? So God had a plan. God had a purpose for his life. So when they resuscitated him, they put him in the ICU, critical care. They put him in there, and his body, by the time we got up to the hospital, because he had called me before they even took him back to surgery and found out what was wrong with him. I had called him and to find out, how he was doing that day. It was on a Saturday. And he said, Mildred, he said, I can't walk. I'm like, what are you talking about? You can't walk. He said, I can't walk. He said, I got up to walk and I fell. I hit the floor. He said, I'm having a hard time walking. I said, what are you talking about? You just went in there to have a surgery. What you talking about? You can't walk now. He said, they're going to take me back to surgery. They're running tests on me now. They're going to take me back to surgery because my body is setting up this infection. So they took him back to surgery, and coming back up to this part, when we got up to the hospital to see him, they had him in ICU. His body was twice his size. So you imagine him at 400 and something pounds. I think he had to lose some weight before he could have the surgery. So just imagine him at 300 pounds or 350 before the surgery. And so imagine now your body like twice that size, and you're trying to figure out, who is this person? Because he was so big, his head was big, he was going into kidney failure. They started temporary dialysis on him. And the doctor looked at me and my sister, and the doctor said to me and my sister, y'all need to go home, because if he survived, he got a long road to go. That if he survived, so I remember Jermaine, David's son, calling us and saying, well, they want to take him off the vent. What should we do? And me, M was like, what should we do? What should we do? Because the doctors literally had given him up to die, because they didn't see no way that he would survive this incident. Now you imagine, you just went in for a simple surgery, and now you're on your deathbed, or the doctors are giving up on you, and they expecting you not to live but die. And my brother Roger said, we ain't gonna give up on him yet. Say, let's wait this thing out. Let's see what's gonna happen. And so we agreed with him, because M didn't know what to do and what to say, and Jermaine was puzzled about what they should do. Should they take him off, what they should do? And Roger spoke up and he said, well, hey, we're gonna walk through this thing. We're gonna see what happened. We ain't gonna give up on him yet. And so Lucy remember a word that was spoken over his life, a word of prophecy that was spoken over his life, that said, oh man of God, that God got a plan for you, that there's a mighty work that you got to do. So she began to speak that word over his life. And, and we begin to pray, and thank God for a praying family. So we begin to pray, and we begin to come against the spirit of death. And we begin to speak that same word that Lucy said was over his life. And so one day, I said, you know what? I said, I'm going to see my brother because I know that while he was in this coma, while he was in this place, I know that God was speaking to him and that God was dealing with him. And so I just happened to call my brother because he was up there at the hospital. So I just happened to call him to see how things were going. My brother said when he walked into the hospital room, my brother was sitting on the side of the bed. I'm like, what? And the doctors just had told us that he was going to die. He wasn't going to live. And for me and my sister to go home because it wasn't no way that he was going to survive. And like 2 weeks later, and well, there he is back on here. David, I was just telling them about when you went in for the bariatric surgery.
Hold on a second, sis. I can barely hear you. Hold on a second, please.
Well, he's gone again. But anyway, you know, I don't even guess it. I don't even believe that it was 3 weeks, and they had he was sitting on the side of the bed, and there he was alive, sitting on the side of the bed. Oh. So I was just telling them about your bariatric surgery.
Oh, okay.
So I was telling them how the doctor had given up on you and how that was a word spoken over you that Lucy began to speak over you and that we began to speak over you because the doctors had said that you was going to die and you weren't going to live, and how they had put you on dialysis because your body was twice the size and you was in kidney failure. So you can finish it up.
Okay. Well, it even happened. Where do I start? It even started when I was with my doctor. You know, I was a heavy man. You know, I was a big guy. I was weighing 479 pounds. And so I was on 3 shots, diabetic shots, and taking 3 heart pills, 3 blood pressure pills. And my doctor, and well, they changed doctors. And so the doctor sat me down. And she said, you know, she said something that got my attention, that made me trust her. She said, God sent me to take care of you, Mr. Olson. And I looked at that lady. I said, ma'am. She said, God sent me to take care of you. She said, I'm your guardian angel. She said, and I don't mean that just speaking it. She said, you know, she said, I'm a Christian. She said, I felt the presence of God when you walked in here. And she said, I heard God say, he's the one. And she said, so God told me to take care of you. She said, so I'm going to take care of you. She said, we're going to start first with your weight. She said, that is all right with you? She said, I ain't not embarrassing you. I said, no, ma'am. She said, Mr. Ovens, she said, I can't give you any more medicine. She said, but if, she said, I've been already talking to surgeons down in Birmingham, Alabama. And she said, if I don't get you this surgery, she said, you won't live another 6 months. She said, your body can't take the trauma that is in right now. She said, you're gonna go get up out of your chair one evening and you're gonna have a massive heart attack. She said, your heart is pumping all it can pump, you know, and she said, I don't know what else to do for you, but give you that surgery and hoping that you can get the weight off. And she said, if you willing to try, she said, you got about a 70-30 chance of coming out. And I said, well, if I'm gonna die from a heart attack anyway, why not take a chance? But then I went to the prophet. I went to the prophet, Reverend Fred Vahey, my pastor, and I sat there and told him about it. And he called me up he called me up during service one Sunday. He prayed. He laid hands on me. He told me, he said, you're going to live and not die. He said, that's God's word for you. And the way he spoke it with such authority that it meant something. It felt sharp when he spoke it, you know. That's God's word for you, David. You will live and not die. You're going to have a hard time, but you're going to come through it. And so that's what happened. So I went on that word. I stood on the word of the man of God. I live and not die. No matter what happened, I'm going to come through. So I went knowing that my chances were of coming out alive wasn't looking good. You know, I knew the risk. I knew the risk, let's put it like that. The risk was 70-30. So I took the risk. And I was doing well after the surgery. After about a week, I was getting ready to come home on that Sunday. My family was coming down to pick me up and everything. And I was so happy. I was getting out. I was coming home. But that morning, that Sunday morning, I felt a sharp pain down in my stomach. And I began to sweat like somebody was just pouring water on me. And I rang my bell to call the nurse. The nurse came in. I told her, I said, nurse, there's something going wrong. I said, I ain't feeling right. I said, something's wrong. And she said, Mr. Oldfield, you'll be all right. She said, you know, your doctor said that you might get to go home with your family when you come today. Is your family coming? Yes, ma'am. She said, you probably get to go home today. She said, you're going to be all right. She said, you know, after gastric bypass surgery, you know, she said, sometimes you have gas pockets, you know. So I kind of took it that she knew what she was talking about. She being the nurse in there. So it got worse. Sweat got worse. And I got weak. I could pull myself up. I couldn't walk. And I rang again. I said, you have to call my doctor. I said, something is wrong. She said, Mr. Olson, she said, excuse me, my my dog jumping around in the car. And so he said, the nurse said, you'll be all right. Those things happen. And so I called her back. I said, no, you got to call the doctor. I said, something wrong. I said, something is not right. I said, this not supposed to be like this. And so she called she finally, after I fussed her out, I said, lady, let me tell you something. I said, I'm 40-something years old. I've not been past gas 40-something years. Don't you know I got to know when I
Dave, can you
let me
hear
get you
me?
back. I can hear you.
Okay.
I can
You
hear you.
want to talk about the death experience because we're running out of time. You want to talk about the death experience?
Yes, yes, yes. So after I got sick and I went in I went in that coma and you know the doctors already said I wasn't gonna live. You know they had gave up on me. They had told y'all that. You know you remember.
Mm-hmm.
And so I remember one morning. I can't say exact date. I can't because I was in I was in a coma I was in a coma on life support on dialysis and body swole up twice big as it should have. Look like I was a good year blimp balloon. You know I was just over my kidneys had stopped functioning. So I remember one morning I was laying in the bed and understand I'm unconscious in the body, but my spirit man is alive. Now I can preach the thing, but I'm not gonna preach it. But
No, don't
I
preach.
was, I was. Ooh, man, you gonna make me thing getting too good to me. But I was laying
So we
there
only got
and I
about
saw
probably like
shadows.
4 or 5 minutes
I saw
left.
shadows. Okay, I'm speeding. I saw shadows coming out the wall, and I knew that something was going bad. I knew I was dying, and I was saying, "Lord, have mercy." In my spirit, Jesus, have mercy on me. Jesus, have mercy on me. And my spirit was saying you'll live and not. I could hear my pastor Vehi saying you'll live and not die. David, you're gonna live and not die. I could hear his voice. David, you're gonna live and not die. And I was saying, Lord have mercy, Lord help me, Lord help me. And a storm in the spirit. I seen a storm coming to heaven in the atmosphere, a storm like a the clouds got real dark, as though it was gonna be a real fierce storm, and lightning came out of that cloud. Out of the lightning, I seen a horseman. I seen a white horse come out of that lightning, and his eye was red as coals of fire, and he was dazzling white, beautiful creature. and out of his nose, every time he breathed, white smoke would come out of his nostrils. And he was running. His body structure was so muscular, and I knew that he was a beast that I'd never seen something like this before. And I knew that somehow God had heard me, and on this beast was a rider, and he was draped in a garment. Mildred, I never seen his hands. I never seen the feet, but I say he because the structure of the body that I seen, I knew that he was a man because of the built of the structure, the muscular tone of the body. He was, I say, man. He stepped off the animal, the beast, but his feet, he walked 2 feet off the ground. He never touched the ground. But he walked to my bed and he opened up his robe and he pulled out a strobe and he knelt in my ear and he spoke a word. He said, "Oh, mighty man of God, your day of departure is not yet. Awake from your sleep and rise from your bed." You got to understand the power of that word. Now you know the condition that I was in, but when the nurse, they had pronounced me dead, and my son and daughter of my wife was supposed to have been coming to get me. They told them to come on if they wanted to see me, but they died if I'd be alive when they get there because I was shutting, my organs were shutting down, my body's shutting down, and it's a 3 hour drive, 3.5 hour drive. He died if I got 3.5 hours left, so I probably just call them, tell the morgue that you want to pick the corpse up to come with you and pick him up, and we release the corpse to the undertaker. But it contact me, and the nurse turned around. When she turned around with the pan to watch me, I was looking at her, and that woman dropped that pan and she run out of the room screaming at the hall, "This man ain't dead. This man looking at me. This man ain't dead. He looking at me." And the doctors and everybody ran back down there. They handled me. I seemed like for 2 days. Want to know how man? That doctor told me. He said, "I've been practicing medicine 43 years." And he said, "All the days of my practicing, I never seen a man in your condition walk out of the hospital. To do you the first." And he said, "I'm putting a sign on your door because you my miracle man." And they called me Miracle Man. Y'all go down there and see about the Miracle Man. They tell you everybody will come and peeping at me like they were looking at a sideshow. Want to know, and they couldn't understand. Doctors, doctors, students come and studying me, examining me. I got so sick of them folk punching on me and sticking me and trying to asking me questions. I asked them, I said, "Where that man went that told me to get up?" And they looked at me like I'm crazy. They said, "What you talking about?" I said, "Y'all didn't see them folk cause that thing come in here. Ain't nobody been in here." I said, "I'll be done." But
Amen.
I'm here. Oh, mighty man
Yeah.
of God, your day of departure is not yet. Awake from your sleep
Yeah.
and rise from your bed. I'm still here.
Yeah. Well, David, we thank you so much for coming and sharing your story. Thank you for coming back for part two and sharing your story. Thank you for the transparency. Thank you for the honesty of your story. So if you want to get in contact with David, please send me an email to iHeartMinistries@gmail.com. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel at iHeartMinistries 4.22 Guest Towns, and follow me also on Roku on our Brothers Keeper channel and also on Amazon Fire Stick. We just want to give a special thanks to our new watchers that's watched the show in Brazil and Mexico, Costa Rica, Korea, Sweden, Russia, Romania, Israel, Germany, and the Netherlands, and as well as Australia and so many more. I would like to hear from you. Please email me at iHeartMinistries@gmail.com to let me know in what state or country that you are viewing the show. And until next week, let the peace of God reign, rule, and abide